we are going to do compression, and we're going to put the compressor in front of the limiter after the tape. So we're going to go here, and I'm going to just go to the Mu from Manley. I actually owned one of these too, and it was very cool. And this is sort of a variable Mu compressor. It's tubes, it's transistors, it's bright and lively. That's what this is. And it's never grabby. A variable Mu is a smooth technology that has smooth reaction to changes in volume and dynamics as it's listening, and it gives you smooth compression. That is the characteristic. So we can turn this on, and it's also a saturator. So typically when we're going to use a compressor in mastering, there's a couple little things. Almost invariably, we're going to go for all the way slow attack. Why do we want a slow attack usually on the compressors for mastering compressors? Why? To keep it punchy. Exactly. To keep the punch, to avoid it getting grabby, and to keep those transients, especially dance music. So similarly, for the release, we want slow releases, right? So this is recovery. So that we want that to be fast, and we want the attack to be slow. So slow attack, and then up here recovery is fast release. Typically, this almost is the magic settings on all mastering compressors. We want slow attack and a fast release. Why do we want a fast release? And sometimes you can slow it down a little bit, but why do you kind of want a fast release? Slow attack because you want to keep the transient. Why do you want a fast release? You want to let it groove and let it let go. You don't want it to push down on the dynamics and hold them down. You want it to not react too fast and let go quickly, typically. Now, there is no ratio on variable Mus. Don't usually have ratios. They kind of have this auto ratio thing. So we don't have to worry about the ratio. But we do have to worry about, do you see this tiny little thing that says HPSC? That is the high pass sidechain filter. And we want to click those on. What that's doing is it's the control signal of the compressor, the signal it's listening to, not the signal it's reacting to in the sidechain, has the low end filtered. So if we think about the little elf in mixing foundations, the compressor is not going to react to low frequency dynamics, right? It's going to ignore them. What is that going to do for our mastering? Why is that good? Why do we want the compressor not to react to big low-end transients? You want to keep the power, and you don't want it to dip when the kick kicks and make a wobbly groove. You want it to kind of ignore the kick and do sort of compress after the kick transient a little bit. And that will keep your kick power. Otherwise, it's going to eat your kick power. Okay. So now all we have to do, we have our slow attack. We have our fast release. We don't have to worry about the ratio. We have our sidechain, the low cut in the sidechain signal. And now we're just going to drive the saturation with this dual input in the middle. It sounds like this. Can people hear the saturation? It's obviously getting a little louder too, but there's a brightness and a saturation and a bouncy liveliness that's kicking in. Can people hear that? Yes? Okay, good. So this is why people love these things. It's tubes and transformers. If you notice, we're not doing any gain reduction. We're really just using this. It's doing the ever so lightest of light compression, but mostly it's sort of a saturation box for now. Now, there's something called mid-side technology. And what that is if you have a stereo signal, you can separate out what is coming down the center, as we said on Thursday, and what's on the sides. And then you can EQ them differently, just like we did with the EQ, or you can compress them differently. So typically, you would want to compress the center just a little bit to give it some power, but leave the sides uncompressed. So to put this in mid-side mode, we're going to pull these, see where it says left, right? We're going to pull those down to mid-side. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to unlink the controls. The left is the mid, the right is the side. And now now these outputs are also in mid-side mode. So the mid signal is here on the left and the side signal is here on the right. And we can do some really cool widening like this. That right now we're just listening to the sides, right? That's the reverbs, the percussion. All of a sudden the kick drum goes away and you can just hear what's in the sides. And then we can then compress the mids a little bit and blend it. Now, let's say we want to put a little bit of compression on the center signal. So we're going to work this threshold, and then we have our attack and our release, which we'll probably just leave, but we're going to give it a little bit of threshold, and you're going to see a little bit of gain reduction on the left channel here, which is our mid channel. Did you see a little bit of gain reduction over here? So did you also see a little bit of gain reduction over here? That is because this little thing that says link sidechain is still linked. But if we want to apply compression to the center signal, but leave the sides all light and uncompressed, what do? Unlink the sidechain here. Boom. Now you're going to see only compression on the mid channel and the sides will stay uncompressed. Everyone hear that? This is advanced stuff, y'all. This is musical mid-side compression, and it's very, very typical in mastering because you can leave the sides very open. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. The first time someone showed me this, I remember who it was. It was Chris Muth at AES convention. He built a mid-side box, and he was like, Danny, come over here. He better be. And it blew my mind that you could take a stereo signal and separate out the mids and the sides. So this is one version here. Let's go to another musical mid-side compressor. And this is another secret weapon, which actually also is not just a plugin. It's a hardware emulation, and it's made in Germany. And I think if you want to buy an actual one of these, it's probably like, I don't know, $10,000 or something like this. Thank goodness we have this beautiful plugin, and they did a great job. And one of the cool things about this thing is that if you're a UAD person, this is available to you. But if you're a Plugin Alliance person, it is also available to you. So this is scary, a little bit intimidating at first, but it does make sense, and it has a really wonderful sound to it. This is solid state, so this is not tubes, and this also can run transformerless or with a transformer. So we talked about that on the ATR yesterday, and there's also EQ. There's also an EQ built into this as well. Exactly. This is fancy. This is very fancy. So if you want your transformer on or off, like the ATR, it's this warm button here. So the first thing we're going to do here is it defaults to mid-side mode, which is right here. Mid-side mode, we're going to keep that on. Then we're going to take off the channel link like we did before. And which means that the gain here is going to be our mid-side widener. And we can actually also turn off the mid signal so we can just listen to the sides again. That never gets old for me, that trick. I still feel like a little kid every single time I solo the sides of something. I could do that for hours, just sit by myself and take tracks and solo the sides and listen what's in the sides. Okay. So now we can then adjust the mid-side balance with this gain knob, which is the left is usually with all these compressors. On the left, we have the mid signal. On the right, we have the side. And so this becomes a mid-side widener, this gain here. So I am exaggerating this mid-side balance. Is it possible to overdo the widening? Is more widening the better and the most widening the best, or is there a sweet spot? Right. It's just like any exciting thing. Too much can be not what you want. What happens if you push the sides too much relative to the mid signal? What happens when you balance, you push too much side energy and relative to the mid energy? You lose the center power. You lose the center power. Exactly. It's too wide, and all of a sudden the center has caved in like a cake falling in the center or something. And your kick drum feels weak and your effects are too jazzy and too crazy. So even though it is exciting and it is fun, don't overdo it, but sometimes a little bit is nice. Okay. So let's do sort of with this what we did with the Veramu. We're going to turn on the Sidechain Low Cut here, and we're going to pull it down to low pass filter. No, we want a high pass filter. And so this way, the lows are getting cut on the sidechain. The attack and release is very similar. You don't have to go all the way slow, but you could. You can go slowish. Release can be fastish. With the side signal, I think all the way slow is good and all the way fast is good. And since we're not going to be compressing the side signal, we're going to leave it uncompressed, but we're going to do a little bit of gentle squeeze on the mid signal again. Okay, so now what I want to just demonstrate, when I turn off this high pass filter that's filtering the low frequency on the mid signal, I want you to see how important this is to have this low cut. Because when I turn this off, you're going to watch the kick trigger the mid compression and it's going to eat the kick power. I'm going to prove it to you. Watch. Right? So what does this mean for us when we use musical analog modeled compressors in mastering? Is that if those compressors don't have a low cut on the sidechain, we can't use them. Really? I mean, in a way, we can't. Or you could just use it as a saturation box, but you can't really compress. Because unless you can cut the low frequencies off the sidechain, you're gonna have it eat your kick, and nobody wants their kick eaten. I mean, right? No, you need your kick kicking. So what is this doing for us? This is doing a few things, right? This is creating width. This is creating saturation. And this is also creating very specific power down the center, but leaving the sides uncompressed and airy, right? So this is very good, sneaky technique. And this is one of those things that when you get your tracks mastered by experienced mastering people, when you get it back, you're like, oh my gosh, what did this person do? How did they do this? And how come I couldn't do it? Well, this is one of those dirty mastering engineer tricks that they don't tell you in kindergarten. But this is something that you can do, and it's not hard to do at all. Cheers, everyone. Great to see everyone.